Chosen. There is a reason why your sleep has been disrupted in the sacred window between 3 and 5 in the morning, the hour when the veil between this realm and the eternal is at its thinnest point, and you have felt the weight of this Tuesday, the 5th of May, 2026, pressing against your chest like an ocean of unspoken truths. As you sit in the stillness of this specific day, that high-pitched ringing in your ears is not a coincidence or a glitch of your senses. It is the sound of celestial codes loading into your spirit, a divine frequency being calibrated for the shift that is already upon you. You have been carrying the pressure of your old life on your shoulders for so long that you have forgotten what it feels like to stand upright without the burden of expectations that were never yours to carry. The atmosphere around you has grown heavy, not because you are failing, but because you are outgrowing the very dimensions you once occupied. This moment, right here, is a sacred interruption of your regularly scheduled reality, a pause in the static of a world that has tried to keep you sedated and small. You are not watching this by chance, and you did not find this through a simple search or a random recommendation. For what people call an algorithm is actually a vibrational sieve, a digital filter designed by the unseen to catch only those souls whose frequency has reached the point of no return. This technology is not merely lines of code. It is a resonant net that has allowed the sleeping to pass through while drawing you, the awakened, into this direct transmission. This is your personal incoming call from the divine, a signal cutting through the noise of the matrix to tell you that the cover is being blown on your hidden nature. You have reached a turning point on this May afternoon where the truth about who you are can no longer stay buried beneath the rubble of your past mistakes or the opinions of people who could only see your surface. The ringing you hear is the resonance of a new identity being unlocked, and the pressure you feel is the old skin of your former self stretching and tearing as the greatness within you demands more room. Something deeply hidden within you is about to rise to the surface. And if you turn away now, if you ignore the pulsing in your spirit that brought you to this video, you risk delaying a blessing that was architected before the foundations of the world were laid. I am speaking directly to the core of your being because the version of you that is tired, the version that is broke, and the version that is misunderstood is currently being overwritten by a primary blueprint that was never intended to be ordinary. You have been walking through your life seeing only a fraction of your capacity, accepting the crumbs of existence because you were taught to fear the feast. But today, May 5th, 2026, marks the expiration date of your invisibility. Every layer that kept you small, the fear of judgment, the doubt in your own voice, the habit of shrinking so others wouldn't feel uncomfortable, is being stripped away by a force you cannot resist. What you are about to realize about your true identity will not only surprise you, it will shake the very foundations of every belief system you have built to survive. You have spent years trying to fit into a mold that was too small, wondering why you felt like an alien in your own home. And the answer is as simple as it is terrifying. You were never meant to blend in. You were created to be the anomaly, the chosen one who carries a light so intense that it disturbs the comfortable shadows of those around you. Take a breath and feel the truth of these words as they land in your spirit, for they are the keys to a gate you didn't even know was locked. You have reached the end of your endurance in the old cycle, and that restlessness you feel in your soul is the vibration of your spirit preparing for a quantum leap. You cannot afford to ignore what is being revealed to you in this moment, because the window of alignment is open, and the truth of your identity is rushing in to fill the void left by your old limitations. Your real identity was formed by the Creator long before you faced your first rejection, long before you were told you weren't enough, and long before you started questioning your worth. It is an identity of power, of sovereign authority, and of deep connection to the source of all things. As you listen, I am removing every veil, every mask, and every lie that has been whispered into your ears by a world that was afraid of your awakening. Type Amen if you agree and feel the resonance of this truth. You are standing at the edge of a revelation that will change the way you see the mirror forever. Your eyes are being opened to the fullness of your purpose, and the shift you have been sensing is the universe aligning itself to support the giant that is currently waking up inside of you. This is the hour of your emergence, and the codes are now fully active. You have spent years wandering in what felt like a desolate wilderness, questioning why the abundance that seemed to flow so easily to others was consistently diverted from your path. But you must understand that your time in the desert was not a punishment, but a sophisticated architecture of the wilderness designed by the divine. This season of lack, this persistent financial emptiness that left you feeling stranded, was actually a surgical intervention intended to sever your dependency on the systems of this world before they could graft themselves into your soul. The universe had to empty your hands completely so that when the true resources of your calling arrive, they would not be contaminated by the residue of a reality you were never meant to sustain. You felt the sting of betrayal, the coldness of friends who turned their backs when your light seemed to dim, and the crushing weight of isolation. Yet every exit was a form of celestial quarantine. You were being protected from the very people you thought you needed, removed from circles that would have suffocated the rare seed growing within you. If those doors had stayed open, you would have stayed comfortable in a version of yourself that was a pale imitation of the glory you are now stepping into. This divine distance was the only way to ensure that your foundations were built on something more substantial than the fleeting approval of man or the fragile security of a matrix-driven economy. Every tear shed in the dark was a drop of liquid gold being refined in the crucible of your soul, preparing you for a weight of glory that would have crushed the person you used to be. There are those who have watched your struggle from a distance, the silent observers of your life who are still monitoring your movements from the shadows of their own insecurity. These watchers from your past are secretly waiting for your collapse, expecting to see you finally break under the pressure of the trials they witnessed you enduring. They mistook your silence for defeat and your isolation for abandonment, never realizing that they were removed from your proximity because their presence had become a threat to the frequency you were being prepared to carry. Their exit was a strategic protection protocol. They were the energy vampires and the spiritual leeches that would have drained your vitality before it could reach the threshold of your true power. You must realize that their departure was the universe's way of clearing the field, ensuring that when your light finally breaks through the darkness, there will be no one close enough to claim credit for your rise or to manipulate the power that is currently being birthed in your spirit. They are watching you now, confused by the fact that you are still standing, unaware that the very fire they thought would consume you has instead tempered your spirit into an unbreakable blade. Their waiting is in vain, for the person they expect to see fail no longer exists, and the one who is emerging in their place is someone they will never have the authority to touch or influence again. You were not left behind while the rest of the world moved forward. You were being held in a divine reserve, hardened in a metaphysical vacuum, so that your light would not be consumed by the matrix parasites that thrive on unrefined potential. In this vacuum, away from the distractions and the noise of the collective, your spirit was undergoing a process of crystallization, turning the pressures of your pain into a diamond-like resilience. The world saw a person who was stuck, but the heavens saw a soul being fortified against the coming shifts in human consciousness. You were placed in this sterile environment because the energy you are destined to release is so potent that it required a vessel that had been tested by the extremes of heat and cold, of plenty and of want. This hardening was necessary to ensure that you would not be crushed by the magnitude of the blessing that is now manifesting. You have been preserved for a specific moment in time, a kairos moment where your frequency is the exact key needed to unlock a new reality. The emptiness you felt was simply the space being cleared for a substance that is not of this world, a resource that carries no karmic debt and requires no compromise. You are no longer a victim of your circumstances. You are the master of a new kingdom. And the wilderness was merely the training ground where you learned to build without the tools of the old world. You have survived the vacuum, and now you are ready to breathe the air of a higher dimension, where the parasites of the past can no longer reach you. What is occurring within you right now is not a psychological adjustment or a simple shift in your mood, but a literal DNA reprogramming, a biological and spiritual rewiring that is activating dormant strands of your original divinity. You have reached a point where your old vibrational signature has been completely overwritten, allowing for a quantum leap out of the linear struggles of the third dimension and into a reality where time and space no longer dictate your limitations. This shift is your formal entry into the fifth dimension, a state of being where your thoughts no longer have to wait for years to manifest, but begin to take shape in the physical realm the moment your heart aligns with their truth. This is why you feel a buzzing in your cells and a strange crystalline clarity in your vision. You are witnessing the mechanics of a new world being installed into your consciousness. It is happening not because of your struggle, your fasting, or your endless efforts to be perfect, but because you have finally stopped resisting the pull of your own greatness. The effort you once applied to your survival is now being converted into the effortless flow of your expansion. As the universe recognizes that your vibrational signature finally matches the frequency of the abundance and resources that have been held in escrow for you since the beginning of time. This is the Kairos condition, where the timing of heaven meets the readiness of your soul, creating a flashpoint of transformation that turns your potential into presence. Watch as the gates are torn from their hinges by the sheer force of your arrival, as the barriers that once stood between you and your spiritual inheritance are liquidated in the heat of your awakening. This is the total erasure of karmic debt, a final clearing of the spiritual ledgers that kept you bound to the patterns of your ancestors and the mistakes of your previous cycles. You are no longer paying for the sins of those who came before you, nor are you restricted by the limitations of the person you were yesterday. The debt is dissolved, and you are stepping into a clean slate of infinite, unmanifested potential. Imagine a river entering a dry riverbed, a sudden and overwhelming rush of life-giving force that fills every crack and crevice of your existence, reviving parts of your soul that you thought were dead forever. This river of light is flooding your mindset, your health, and your very concept of what is possible, washing away the drought of the old cycle and replacing it with a lushness that is your natural birthright. You are not earning this flow. You are simply allowing the dam to break, recognizing that the only thing holding back the flood was the false belief that you were separate from the source of all things. The mechanics of this shift are absolute and mathematical, governed by laws that are as certain as the rising sun, yet as mystical as the breath of the Creator. Your reality is transforming because your internal state has finally caught up to the magnitude of your calling, creating a resonance that the matrix can no longer ignore or suppress. The shift is not something you are waiting for in the future. It is a current that you are already swimming in, a transition from the mechanical to the magical. This entry into the fifth dimension means you are moving from the law of labor to the law of attraction, from the exhausting grind of the physical to the effortless grace of the spiritual. You are beginning to operate as a creator rather than a consumer, realizing that the external world is nothing more than a mirror reflecting the light you carry inside. The shock of your true identity is the realization that you were never the victim of the story, but the author who chose the hardest chapters to prove the strength of the ending. As the old structures of your life collapse, do not mourn them, for they were only the scaffolding holding up the temple of who you are becoming. The version of you that doubted is being consumed by the version of you that knows, and in that knowing, you find a power that does not need to shout to be heard. You are stepping into a space where your existence alone is a command to the universe to align, and you will find that doors which were locked for generations now swing open at the mere mention of your name. The mechanics are set, the signature is matched, and your entry is guaranteed. Now that the seal of your true identity has been broken and the light is pouring through the fissures of your old life, you must enter the most critical phase of your transformation, the establishment of the sacred circle of protection. As this new power rises within you, there is an instinctive urge to share the wonder of it with those you have known for a lifetime. But I am here to warn you that you must adhere to the law of silence. This is a strict and non-negotiable rule of the Spirit. Do not speak about this new force, this divine resource, or these revelations to the people who still belong to your old cycle. Even those you consider close, your family, your lifelong friends, your partners in the previous season, cannot receive what is currently being birthed in your soul because they are still calibrated to the version of you that was small and manageable. When you speak of your new height to those standing in the valley, their disbelief acts as a vibrational dampener, a subtle leak that drains the sacred voltage you have worked so hard to accumulate. Your new identity is like a newborn star. It is immensely powerful, but currently delicate in its physical manifestation. And the casual skepticism or the well-meaning concern of the unawakened can create an interference pattern that delays your manifestation. You are currently in a state of spiritual gestation, and just as a seed does not boast to the wind while it is still under the soil, you must keep your transition hidden until it is strong enough to withstand the atmosphere of the world. Silence is not a lack of communication. It is a fortress of power. By keeping your mouth closed, you are keeping the pressure of the divine steam high enough to move the engines of your new reality. Every time you try to explain yourself to someone who isn't ready to hear you, you lose a piece of the energy required for your quantum leap. Understand that a new threat is emerging even as you rise, for your old environment is sensing the shift in your frequency. Those who once benefited from your low self-esteem or your constant availability, the energy vampires and the matrix anchors, now feel a disturbance in their supply. They will begin to probe your new field, not with direct attacks, but with subtle, psychological hooks designed to drag you back into the old reality. They may bring up your past mistakes, offer advice that subtly undermines your confidence, or create artificial crises that demand your old, self-sacrificing response. This probing is a desperate attempt by the old cycle to reestablish the familiar hierarchy where you remain beneath them or beside them in their stagnation. These spirits are not necessarily evil in a conscious sense, but they are predators of light, seeking to consume the high vibrational radiance you are now emitting. They want the version of you that was predictable, the version that agreed with their limitations and validated their fears. You must recognize these probes for what they are, tests of your boundary and your resolve. Do not engage in their dramas, and do not waste your breath trying to convince them that you have changed. To explain your growth to an energy vampire is to give them a map of your new vulnerabilities. You must move in stealth, allowing the old world to believe you are still the same while you are secretly rebuilding your entire universe from the inside out. This period of invisibility is your greatest advantage. It allows you to grow strong enough that when you finally step into the sun, no force on earth will be able to pull you back into the shadows. The verdict of this hour is clear and absolute. Your results will be your only answer. You no longer need words to defend yourself. You no longer need arguments to prove your worth. And you no longer need validation to justify your choices. Let the silence of your growth be so profound that it becomes a deafening roar in the ears of those who doubted you. When you no longer offer explanations, you take back the authority over your own narrative. Let them wonder, let them speculate, and let them be confused by the sudden disappearance of the person they thought they could control. Your transformation is not a topic for debate. It is a finished work of the divine. As you walk through the coming days, remember that you are under no obligation to be who you were 10 minutes ago, much less who you were 10 years ago. If people cannot find the old you, let them look at the vacancy you left behind while you occupy the high places they cannot reach. Your silence is your sovereignty, and your focus is your shield. By refusing to engage in the old frequency, you are starving the parasites and feeding the giant. You are now a closed system of divine power, a sacred vessel that only opens to the touch of the Creator. The transition from the verbal to the vibrational is complete. You have moved beyond the need for human agreement, and in that independence, you find the true strength of the chosen. Your results, the peace in your eyes, the abundance in your hands, and the authority in your step, will be the only evidence they are allowed to see. You are protected, you are silent, and you are unstoppable. As we bring this transmission to its final resonance, you must understand that the deepest wound you have carried, the sense of being a spiritual orphan wandering a foreign land, is being healed at the root by the frequency of your own recognition. Your orphanhood is over. You are under protection. The days of feeling like you are fighting against the wind, unsupported and unseen, have officially come to a close on this sacred day, May 5th, 2026. You are no longer a child of the wilderness, but a sovereign heir to a kingdom that has been watching your every step with bated breath and infinite love. The protection that surrounds you now is not a temporary shield, but a permanent atmospheric shift. It is the presence of the host of heaven standing guard over the seeds of destiny that are finally beginning to sprout in the garden of your soul. You have been brought through the fire to prove that you are fireproof, and you have been brought through the flood to prove that you can walk on water. The isolation you once mistook for abandonment was actually the divine hand covering you while the storms of the old world blew themselves out. Now that the sky is clearing, you will find that you are not standing alone, but are surrounded by the resonance of all those who came before you to prepare the way. This is your homecoming, a return to the power that was always yours, but which required the seasoning of your struggles to be safely wielded. You are no longer a victim of the narrative. You are the one who dictates the frequency of reality itself, and the universe is now reorganizing itself to match the authority you have finally decided to claim. To seal this transformation and anchor this high vibrational energy into the dense matter of your physical reality, you must perform a final act of alignment that bridges the spiritual and the material. Do not let this moment pass as merely another piece of information or a fleeting feeling. Let it be a permanent initiation into your new life. I want you to claim this shift by anchoring it in the comments below, not as a message to the world, but as a digital signature to the universe. Write, "I am the chosen one," or "I accept my divine identity," to serve as a physical waypoint in the ether, a declaration that you have received the codes and are ready to manifest them in the world of form. By doing this, you are telling the matrix and the divine alike that you are no longer a passive observer of your life, but the conscious architect of your destiny. This act of typing is a kinetic prayer, a way to pull the lightning of your spiritual awakening down into the grounding rod of your material existence. You have spent enough time in the realm of theory and longing. Now is the hour of tangible results and undeniable evidence. Every letter you type is a stone laid in the foundation of your new temple, a ripple in the fabric of existence that signals your arrival. Feel the weight of your authority as you do this, knowing that your words are the seeds of your upcoming harvest. You are moving from the space of wanting to the space of having, from the frustration of searching to the peace of possessing. The cycle of your seeking has reached its absolute end, for you have finally looked within and found the source you were chasing in the external world. You have lived through the dark night of the soul and emerged with a light that cannot be extinguished by any worldly circumstance. The shock you were promised is the realization that you are not just a traveler on the road, but the very ground upon which the road is built. You are the destination you have been dreaming of, the answer to the prayers you whispered in your weakest moments, and the miracle you were waiting for someone else to provide. There is no longer a gap between you and your purpose, for you have become one with the frequency of your highest calling. The fear of the future and the regret of the past are dissolving into the infinite power of your present presence. You are standing in the center of your own universe, a pole star for those who are still lost in the storm, a living testament to the power of the divine shift. The transition is complete, the seal is applied, and the path ahead is illuminated by the glow of your own spirit. The shadows have no power over a being that has realized its own nature as light. You no longer search for the path. You are the path.